There is good news on the crime front in Milwaukee. Overall, property crimes and violent crimes were down in 2023. But some crime categories did tick up slightly. And even in crime areas that went down, they are still above the pre-pandemic levels. Joining us to help us understand what these numbers mean to the overall safety of our neighborhoods and communities is Milwaukee Police Chief Jeffrey Norman. Chief, thank you so much for joining us and for being with us today. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me here.
Let's start with the good news first. Homicides are down 20%, non-fatal shootings are down about 4%. What do you attribute that drop to? Because it is significant.
So it's always nice to see numbers, especially when we talk about crime numbers, going the right direction. But I always like to level set this conversation. One shooting is one too many. One death is one too many. And so as we are appreciative of what is going in the right direction with our crime numbers, we still got some challenges that we need to understand, that we all still got to keep the work up. To attribute to any one particular organization or person, I think it'd be, not being respectful of all these partnerships we have out here. I always like to say that I'm very appreciative of the work of the men and women in the Milwaukee Police Department. They work 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24/7, no holidays. And so this is important to understand that even though with that type of commitment, we have so many different collaborations with our community partners, with our business partners, with our elected officials. I mean, Mayor Johnson is very supportive of the work that we do. It's important to have that type of setting that tone. But I will say we have so many great partnerships out there, 414 Life, Sojourner Family Peace Center. There is a number of different entities, and I hate naming anyone because it's like, oh, you didn't name me. But I will say there is a real response to collaboration, understanding that we all have a hand in our public safety, and I'm so appreciative of that.
There were some special things you did this past summer, in the summer of 23,
Yes.
to really focus particularly on youth and violence.
Yes.
How did those influence these numbers, perhaps?
Well, we do see some evidence base where we had the Operation Summer Guardian. That was a what we say technology-driven type of strategies of dealing with those areas where shots were being fired based on our shot spotter system. But that was still a collaboration. We still work with faith-based, we still work with our community members to let them know that we're going to be in these areas, but it's also understood that as you see the increased presence of police, there is an expectation to engage with the community members. Longer gone the days of an officer just driving through a neighborhood and just kind of giving everybody the evil eye. It's about getting out your car, saying hello to grandmother on the porch, have a basketball game with a kid out there, and be able to engage and build relationships so that not only do we have that presence, but we are building, a communication with the residents and the individuals that we serve, but also still remaining vigilant. And there was still a number of arrests made, guns taken off the street, but there's a different philosophy and perspective of how to do proactive policing. But we work with a lot of different organizations, Safe and Sound, the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Milwaukee, do more prevention, talking about the dangers of guns, being part of PSAs, public safety announcements. Our own districts are creating their own, but also working with so many different community groups, talking about the dangers of guns out here.
There are too many guns, a lot of guns, in Milwaukee now. How do we work to keep lowering these numbers with the prevalence of guns in our community? Because as long as guns are there are going to be some people who are going to use them for purposes that are illegal.
Right. Well, one of the things that is a post-pandemic issue is trauma, dealing with anxiety, dealing with mental health issues, and having that mixed with, the availability and accessibility of guns is still a nagging problem in our community. But I always like to level set this part too is across the nation. I share the same seat with a lot of different major city chiefs, and seeing that guns are still being used inappropriately to resolve issues, your domestic violence issues, the trauma that goes on within your respective homes, where there's other opportunities and things that you can utilize rather than going to such a destructive weapon. But there's also responsibility. This is not a situation talking about the Second Amendment right or getting into any type of argument about, the right to bear arms. It's about being responsible. Many of our non-fatal shootings last year, meaning those were shot but did not die, were accidental, or where there was negligence in regards to children getting a hold of weapons that should not be in their hands. We have so many different resources, gun locks, gun safes, being responsible owners, not leaving your weapon or your gun in your vehicle, unsecured. So those are opportunities that we can do from a community way of being proactive, of not letting these particular items be such available or accessible to those who should not have it in the first place.
Talking about these preventative measures that can be taken place, and in some cases, partnering with folks who help to provide gun locks, those are good things.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Do we need to potentially have the legislature give us some help and mandate some of these things if we're not finding that people are doing it on their own?
So as a representative of law enforcement, I stay in my lane of enforcement. The big thing is there's so many individuals in those particular type of positions, legislatures, whatnot, need to listen to what their constituents ask for. All I do is report the data, be part of the solution of ensuring that we are doing our part to not only enforce but also help prevent, and let those who are part of the lawmaking and responsible to the voters do their part.
But you are a pretty powerful constituency of one.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess as a voter.
Legislators would certainly want to listen to what you would find would be helpful, because everybody wants crime to go down.
Absolutely, absolutely. Being a part of that conversation, I believe it's also important to be able to have bringing in the data aspect of it. What do we see, and see what they can come up with their solutions that we are paying them so much money for in regards to, being legislators.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Car thefts are down, which is a big thing for people.
Yes.
To what do you attribute the decrease in the number of car thefts?
I will say again, us. We have so many different opportunities to secure vehicles. You saw that there was a movement from Kia, Hyundai, which was one of the bigger challenges of getting your updates for the immobilizer. Using, the club. I remember talking to one alderman the other day and I saw him get out of his car and put his club up. Again, help us help ourselves in regards to doing our respective parts of securing your vehicles, not leaving your vehicle running with the keys in and saying I'm just want to warm it up, because that is, again, another opportunity for someone to take. So it is a collaborative, between, our messaging. Yes, and we do have enforcement. We have a motor vehicle task force of detectives and officers out there engaging in proactive investigative work to make sure that we are getting the right people in regards to these particular type of behaviors. But there's no one size solution to it all. Ensuring that we are part of communications, making sure there's public service announcements, don't leave your cars running, making sure that there's a vigilance on the part of our public of that if there's something going on in your neighborhoods or entries or individuals who are taking advantage of our vehicles being out there in the streets, say something, give us information so that we are able to target and be able to focus on those who are bringing the most harm in our community. So we had some really great takeaways that we're using that energy from 2022, 2023, and putting forth it in 2024.
Is the goal really, as we take a look at these crimes, even though they're down, but they may be still above the pre-pandemic levels, is to really just keep working and chipping away at continuing to bring those numbers down?
So I love this conversation. I think that there is a almost singular view in regards to this pre-pandemic talk. I always have conversations with our business community, or my wife sees in the medical community, and there's so many challenges in all respective industries. Nothing's the same. It's like I get challenged about, okay, so when are we going to get those numbers in 2019, 2018? And it's almost like you kind of put it back in their court and say, when are you going to have business as in 2019 or 2018? We are embarking on unprecedented territory. There is so much that we have to recalibrate and understand. What does our workforce look like? So for us, I'll always say the goal of the Milwaukee Police Department is 0. I'm not looking at 2018 as my guiding light. I don't look at 2017. I want to be able to have no crime. And that is where that part of the vision in regards to saying that we're free of crime based on our community engagement. So I look every day in regards to an opportunity to who we don't have at the table, who we don't have in the room, to work on this work called public safety and ensuring that we are firing all pistons in regards to the work that we're doing in a collaborative, leaning in type of approach.
I do want to talk a little bit about burglary and robbery. They were both up slightly. Hate to go there with what we just talked about, but they're down significantly from where they were in 2015, 2016. How did you bring those numbers down, and what can we learn from that?
So one of the things that we see that's nagging about robberies, and we can talk more specifically about carjackings, we have to get our nose out of our phones. We have to be more present in the moment. I believe there's a part of us where we're not being the type of individuals that we should expect ourselves to be in our community. Robbery is mostly a crime of impulse, meaning that they see a particular victim or target and they capitalize on, are you paying attention? Are you being aware of your surroundings? Are you walking with your phone in your hands? I see people driving with their phone. It's those type of things where we can do more preventive measures to ensure that if there's going to be a robbery, it's not going to be here because we're vigilant. Neighborhood watches, those are things that help really drive down these impulsive particular type behaviors. Burglaries, again, we've seen some issues in regards to how do we secure our respective businesses or homes. Burglaries could be a garage, could be a business, could be a resident. And so we're seeing some of those unfortunate, I wouldn't say negligence, but we can do what we call target hardening, just simply locking doors, using cameras. And we have such a great team of officers willing to help be that resource saying, let me look at my business. What can we do to bring more lighting or cut the bushes down or, don't have window signs being covered up with a bunch of advertising because that helps visibility. So those are things that are, yes, a challenge. You did say it right, is slightly up, but we just have so many great collaborations out there. I have nothing but faith and hope in regards to turning all these particular things around because we understand what the issue is. And I always ask of our residents, I ask of all of our partners, what can you do to help with the lift for public safety?
Numbers are looking good. They're headed in the direction in which you want to go, which is down. Should people feel safer in Milwaukee today than they did last year or the year before?
I will hope so. So I know there's a lot of focus on what numbers mean, but that is not really, in my mind, the true sign of what is going right for your community. When you see cranes are up in the air, when you see the housing market is tight because there's not homes for sale, those are indicators of what people feel about public safety. They won't invest, they won't build, they won't come back if they don't feel that there's an energy, a right type of outcomes that we all expect and appreciate. So those are my indicators in regards to what is our community feeling like, what is the particular type of temperature. And I heard one alderman say, people vote with their feet, meaning that they leave and go somewhere else if they do not feel. But I see cranes up in the air. I see the reports of large major corporations coming back in. I see that we do have a tight housing market in our city because there are people who are investing, buying homes. And so I will hope that those are the indicators that we want to follow and look at in regards to the health of our city. And also, can we find there's hope because of that particular type of investment in our city? I see the glass half full, not half empty.
Great. Chief, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.